My Fear by Danielle Davis. This story is written by Danielle Davis. I'm a junior at NIU in my first professional semester of the elementary education program. I created this memoir to help children understand that everyone has fears. I also wrote this story to show how I learned a valuable lesson. The audience for this memoir is geared for 2nd through 4th graders. During my childhood, my family spent our summer weekends at Black River Falls, Wisconsin. My dad, mom, sister, and I each had our own four-wheeler to ride on the trails in Wisconsin. Mine was blue and white. My four-wheeler was called the Breeze. We all wore helmets and awesome goggles. My family never took vacations on fancy cruises or visited beautiful beaches, just Wisconsin trails. We followed right behind one another on the trails. We never lost anybody that way. We spent the entire weekend driving our four-wheelers in Wisconsin. Sometimes we camped out in a tent, and other weekends we spent our nights in a hotel. Some days the trails were dusty and dry, but I absolutely loved when the trails were muddy and wet. When it was muddy, my four-wheeler would zoom through the rain puddles and splash mud above both mine and my sister's heads because we were so small. There were times when the puddles were so big we were forced to go right through the middle. The middle was the only option at times because there was not a way to judge the depth of the water. The mud was so gooey and sticky, my four-wheeler would get stuck. The harder I pushed my thumb down on the throttle, the faster the mud would spray from my back wheels. The mud would splash all over me and drench my clothes. Driving through the mud in my four-wheeler was so much fun. One day, a disaster happened. There was an enormous hill. I turned the key off on my four-wheeler. I shouted to my mom, "I am not driving up this hill." I was timid, but my dad and sister had already driven up the hill, and my mom was following behind me. I started to release my finger from the throttle so I could slow down. I was terrified of this hill. I could see my dad waiting at the top of the hill for me. I leaned my body weight towards the back of my four-wheeler as I slowly started to drive up the massive hill. Leaning back was not a good idea. My front wheels came up and I flipped off my four-wheeler. I lost complete control of the wheel. I tumbled off the seat and landed hard on the sandy trail. My helmet and goggles protected my head and eyes, but my arms and legs had scratches from the rough sand. My dad said the breeze bounced right over me. It was a miracle that nothing landed on me. Luckily, I was not hurt, but I was full of emotions. I was extremely upset and embarrassed. I jumped off the ground. I threw my helmet, goggles, and boots off and sprinted toward the woods on the sandy trail. As I was running, I began to cry. I absolutely refused to drive up that hill after falling off my four-wheeler. I absolutely did not want to. I decided to stop and lean against a tree. I wasn't trying to run away from my family. I was just embarrassed. I could hear my dad's four-wheeler coming after me. I was crying because of my embarrassment. I could hear my dad's footsteps coming closer. His shoes crunched the leaves and sticks. In between the crunch of the leaves and sticks, I could hear another sound. The noise was very faint and unfamiliar. The noise grew louder and louder. I looked down and saw a rattlesnake coiled up right underneath my feet. In a split of a second, my dad grabbed me and ran off with me. I screamed, "A rattlesnake, a rattlesnake, a rattlesnake!" The snake was right by my feet. I was stepping on a rattlesnake. My dad and I finally made it out of the woods. He set me on the breeze to have a talk. There was no talking for me. I started the breeze and sped up that hill. I was getting away from that rattlesnake. I learned a valuable lesson that day. Things are not always going to be easy, but that is no reason to give up. I should have gotten right back up and tried again. Running away just put me into more danger, and I could have gotten lost or seriously hurt by that snake. An anonymous poet writes, "The silent snake. The birds go fluttering in the air. The rabbits run and skip. Brown squirrels race along the bough. The mayflies rise and dip. But while these creatures play and leap, the silent snake goes creepy, creep."